Hello everybody! Right now it's persimmon season in California. It's fall and they ripen even after the leaves have fallen off the tree. We got so many of them, like hundreds, and we couldn't eat it all, so that is why we decided to make persimmon vinegar. And in order to do that, we need a couple of different ingredients and some equipment. So here we have a lot of ripe persimmons, and as you can see, there's like a white powder on top of them, and that is really important to keep when you're doing the vinegar. You should not wash the fruit, because this is the bacteria that is helpful in the fermentation process. You need a large jar, and it has to be clean and sterilized. You need a cheesecloth that you're going to put on top of the jar and a rubber band to keep it in place. You also need some vinegar, and this is some raw persimmon vinegar that we made before, and we're using it as a starter for the vinegar. You can also use raw apple cider vinegar if you don't have access to a persimmon vinegar. You start by cutting the fruit. First, you remove the stem. You can use a knife like this. You cut it in half, and the cut side is the one that goes down into the jar like this. Then you continue, same thing with all the fruit. Take away the stem, cut it in half, and the cut side down. So now the jar is almost full. Just have the last couple of pieces in there. Like this. Now we're gonna pour the raw vinegar on top of here, so it can start the fermentation process together with the persimmons. Raw vinegar has live bacteria that is needed for fermentation, so please don't use cooked vinegar. Put a piece of cheesecloth on top of the jar and use a rubber band to keep it in place. The vinegar needs to breathe and insects to be kept away. Put the jar in room temperature under a dark blanket or in a dark room. We're then going to check on the jar in a few days. Now it's been 3 days, and we're ready to see what is going on with the vinegar. So, as you can see, the fruit is starting to give off some liquid, and the fermentation process has started. The fruit is coming up to the top of the jar, so we need to put some pressure on the top to keep all the fruit down within the liquid, and then we will avoid any mold on the fruit on the top. I have 3 rocks here in a plastic bag, and I'm going to put that on top to put pressure on the fruit. After I've done that, I'll put back the cheesecloth and the rubber band to hold it in place. Then it goes back into room temperature and under a dark blanket or in a dark room. Then we will have to wait 2 weeks to look at it again. Welcome back. Now it's been 2 weeks, and it's time to strain the fruit and the vinegar into a strainer. I have a big pot and a fabric. You can see here that there's a lot of liquid and a little bit of fruit. I put this fabric on top of the strainer, and then I start pouring the liquid into the strainer. Normally you get 40% of the fruit as a vinegar. It is important that you don't add any water, sugar or yeast, as you might do with other kind of vinegars, such as apple cider vinegar. Remember, all your equipment should be sterilized. Use only plastic, glass and stainless steel equipment. Avoid copper or aluminum. Now you can see that all the fluid is strained, and now it's time to put the fruit in the strainer. It is important, of course, to wash your hands very carefully or use plastic gloves during the whole process to avoid contamination of the wrong bacteria. Now you cover the fruit with the fabric. And then you put a plate on top and let this sit for 30 minutes to 2 hours until there is no more liquid in the fruit. It has all been going through the strainer. Remember, don't put any pressure, just let it slowly sip through the strainer. Welcome back. Now it's been 2 hours and we're going to check on the fruit that was straining here. It seems like all the liquid is in the pot, so we're going to put that aside on the plate. And now we have washed the jar that we used before, and now we're going to reuse it and we're going to pour the vinegar into the jar. You can see that the color is a slightly light peachy color. It can also be more pink or a little darker, but don't worry about that. The most important thing is that you during the whole process has checked that there is no black mold on your fruit. If you find mold, then you will have to throw the vinegar away and start again from the beginning. Now we have the liquid here. We'll put over a piece of fabric so the vinegar can breathe, but no insects can come in. We're going to store this in room temperature for another 2 weeks, and then we can see if it's done. It has now been 2 weeks and the fermentation of the vinegar is complete. The vinegar is now ready to use. First, I would like to show you what the vinegar should look like. In the bottom here you have a peach colored vinegar, and on the top you have a skim coat that is white, and that is the bacteria that has been doing the fermentation of the vinegar. This is called the mother. There is no black mold anywhere, and that shows that this is a healthy vinegar ready to use. I'm now going to strain the vinegar to separate the mother from the vinegar. If you want, you can keep parts of the mother in the vinegar, but right now I'm straining it into a separate bowl. Here you can see the mother in the strainer. It looks really healthy and no black mold. I'm going to pour the vinegar into the bottles, which have been sterilized before you pour the vinegar in. Now we have plenty of homemade organic vinegar without any preservatives or other chemicals. Persimmon vinegar is very popular, especially in Japan, Korea and China. They believe by consuming persimmon vinegar you can lose weight. Some people believe that persimmon vinegar has a lot more probiotic bacteria than yogurt, and it can be a good alternative to obtain those bacteria if you are a vegan. Thank you for watching my video. See you next time.